Welcome back. So there's been a number of announcements here over the last week or so that I have not covered here on the channel. And so I figured that once, we get a couple piled up there, might as well throw them on the board and discuss them. Today we'll be talking about Logan Wagner's new situation out there in central Pennsylvania. We'll be talking about Cale Thomas and his new ride, and Zane Devault joining the All-Star Circuit of Champions for 2025. So we'll start at the top, and with that, we'll start with Logan Wagner. It was announced, at the end of last year that he was, or was it beginning of this year, that he was not going to be coming back to the Kreitz Racing 69K after a pretty short tenure with the team, and they had some pretty good success in a short amount of time. But Kyle McFadden from Flow Racing, I think it was today, tweeted out, maybe it was yesterday actually, that Logan Wagner will be teaming up with his dad, the legend Mike Wagner, for a 35-ish race schedule next year. And, that might not sound like a lot of races, but for Logan Wagner, that's probably about the same as he's done for the last couple of years. If you put an average from 2018 to 2024 of how many races Logan Wagner's run, it's probably in that 35-ish range. I think the most he's ran in one season over that time span is like 38 races maybe or something. The guy does not race all that much and is still able to get several wins per year. But this is an interesting move. Mike Wagner obviously last year won the Port Royal Speedway Track Championship over Logan Wagner. So Mike Wagner clearly has good race cars, good engines. He can still get the job done clearly. But what I'm saying with that is I think Logan Wagner is going to be very competitive here in this car. As I just mentioned, Mike Wagner, the champion last year. I don't think he got any wins, if I'm not mistaken, last year. But the year before that, I'm pretty sure he did. But you don't win a Port Royal Speedway Track Championship by accident. And so Mike Wagner clearly has good equipment. And I think this will be a pretty good move here for Logan. And now he's been running some really famous cars over the last couple of years. The 69K and the Zemco 1. Probably two of the most iconic cars in all of sprint car racing, especially in the central PA area. But in that announcement, it was, they mentioned that there's going to be no points racing this year for Logan Wagner. They're going to be more focused on the big money shows at Port Royal Speedway. Races like the Weikert, the Tuscarora 50, the Greg Hodnick Classic, the Keith Kaufman Classic, all those types of races are going to be the main focus. It does sound like they're going to try and run a couple of races outside of Port Royal. I think I read in there Path Valley for the PA Speed Week and the High Limit Race. Hagerstown was one of the races that was mentioned along with BAPS. So they are going to race outside of Port Royal. But like I said, just about a 35-ish race schedule. And so not a ton of races there for Logan Wagner, but he's proven in the past that he can get quite a bit done in a short amount of time. And this does seem like the perfect move for this family and this operation. Mike Wagner is approaching 60 years old, had a huge wreck a few years ago that I remember being at Port Royal with the Outlaws, and I think he sat out for a little while, maybe had a concussion, but Mike Wagner's not getting any younger. I don't anticipate seeing him race for another 5-6 years or anything like that. So this would be a really cool move if, let's say, Mike Wagner retired in 2 years or something, and then everything kind of went to Logan, and he kind of kept that tradition going of that team. And so it does seem like the perfect move for all parties involved. I did want to recap this for a moment. In the 69K, Logan Wagner only 35 starts in that car, 5 wins and 14 top 5 finishes. He won the Hodnick Classic at Port Royal. He also started on the pole last year with the High Limit Racing Series at the Commonwealth Clash at Lernerville for that $50,000 to win show. And then with the Zemco car, ran that car for 5, 6, 7 years. It would take me all day to try and rack up how many starts he had, but it's much easier to go through the wins. He had 17 wins by my count. He won the Tuscarora 50. He won the Bob Weicker Memorial. He won the Keith Kaufman Classic, and he won 5 championships at Port Royal Speedway in that car. And so, like I said, he had a lot of starts on the one, but the 69K, not many starts, and with those starts in the one, it was like 30 a year, and he was still able to accomplish so very much. So Wagner, I think, is going to be just fine in this new car. They posted a picture of the paint scheme. It looks really good as well. And so we'll see what he is able to accomplish in 2025. Now, moving down here to the blue writing, we'll talk about Cale Thomas as well. He's been a focus point on this channel a couple of times. especially when it was revealed that he was not going to be returning to the J. Kaiser Racing 23 for this season, but announced a few days ago that he will be returning to the Demian Rudzik number 49X to run for the All-Star Circuit of Champions title this year. And that's not unfamiliar territory for Cale Thomas. He has driven this car in the past. They had mild success. They were on the pole of the Tuscarora 50 one year, had a couple of top fives in the Ohio area. I couldn't find any wins for them together, but I feel like they did win a race. But what does this mean for Tim Schaefer? He was the guy driving this car last year, and I did not see any announcement or anything about Tim Schaefer and what his plans are. Also, the 45 car that he used to drive is now driven by Devin Borden, so still waiting to hear what Tim Schaefer's plans are for the season. But this is a good move for Cale Thomas. The Rudzik 49 at one point in time was one of the best cars in the country. When Schaefer won that race at Mansfield, the $100,000 to win race, he had an incredible season that year, and the Rudzik 49X has proven that it can get the job done with the best guys. They won a race with Tanner Thorson behind the wheel of it before. They've had a bunch of other guys drive the car, and so I'm very excited for Cale Thomas. I know that I think he was looking for more of a national tour type thing, but maybe this year he goes out there, dominates the All-Stars, gets the championship, a couple wins, and maybe that gets him up to the next step, which I know it's very tough to do that, but he ran very well last year, and still it did not seem like there was a ton of people calling for him. 53 races last year in the J. Kaiser 23, 8 wins, 2 top 10s with the World of Outlaws, and a quick time qualifying effort with High Limit Racing at Kokomo. So Cale Thomas, with the addition of him to the All-Star Tour, he is immediately one of the championship favorites, in my opinion. You got Devin Borden in the mix as well. I know I'm forgetting some guys off the top of my head right now, but you've got a bunch of guys. I think that when Cale Thomas announced that he was the 11th different driver to join the series, and then you've got down here Zane Devault. It was announced today that he was also going to be joining the All-Star Circuit of Champions Tour this year in the Lane Racing number 4. That is a car that, of course, was on the All-Star Tour when it was a bigger schedule, right? They ran with Chris Windham that one year, and I think that was the first year for Windham when he ran full-time wing sprint cars. If I'm not mistaken, maybe that was the second year. They had mild success there, but Zane Devault has been very, very good in this race car, one of the more underrated drivers in the state of Ohio, and I was kind of waiting for this announcement to happen. I've obviously got a magnet already for him. I thought that this announcement was going to be coming a long time ago, but we finally get to put the magnet on the board here today. But Devault last year, 52 races, 32 top 10 finishes, 4 wins. He was second in the Fast Series point standings last year, and his best run with the Big 2 Series was a 9th place run with the Outlaws at Attica Raceway Park. So Zane Devault, another really good addition to the All-Star Circuit of Champions field, and that field now grows up to 12 cars, and they still have quite a while until their season actually gets going. So I would not be shocked at all to see them gain maybe 1 or 2 more cars. We know the POWRi Series has 16. All-Stars are up to 12. What is not to like about sprint car racing right now? You got 14 on both of the national tours. There is a lot going on right now in this big world of 410 sprint car racing. So it's very, very exciting to be a part of. So excited to see what Cale Thomas can do in the 49X for Rudzik Racing. Excited to see what Zane Devault does in the Lane Racing number 4. And also very excited to see how it goes for Logan Wagner in the 55W this year in Central PA. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below on these 3 drivers and what you think they're going to be doing as far as results go next year. I want to hear all of your thoughts and more down in the comment section. Also, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you guys again on Monday here on the Rodman Rundown. We'll get into our final 5 season previews for the drivers racing full-time with High Limit Racing. Thank you all so much for your support. We'll talk to you again soon.